So pickleball, is that a new hobby that you are picking up?
Yeah, my brother-in-law does it with my other brother-in-law and some of their friends, and I was like, I need to get more hobbies outside of just going to see movies
Fair.
and going to theme parks. So I've been rock climbing too for the past year and a half. So I rock climb at a gym locally, and I hear pickleball is just all the rage. And there's a couple cool sort of breweries
Yeah.
local to Cincinnati that have like sand volleyball courts and like pickleball
Yeah.
leagues and stuff like that. So just trying to, I don't know, get out of the house more and meet people and do things that seem like fun.
Yeah,
That isn't what I normally do.
my pickleball league that I was in was at a brewery, and
Oh,
we
nice.
won, but I have not returned since. But
Oh,
pickleball will come back again when we talk about our news subject, because
oh,
it will.
what?
I know.
Interesting.
Crazy.
I'm shocked because yeah, no, that's I'll hold you to that. We'll
Thank you.
figure that out.
It's a very easy. It's not going to be a hard. It's not a hard transition.
No? Okay,
No.
cool. I'll leave that transition to
Thank
you
you.
then, however we get there. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of I Think You'll Hate This. This is episode 8 of the calendar year 2026. We're still doing it, and hopefully it's gotten incrementally better for people.
I think
I
so.
think so. I think we're making some strides. I like doing this.
Yeah.
So, but hey, we don't have a lot of time. This is going to be another one of those episodes, Tina. And that's, I don't know how this fares for audience members, anybody that listens or watches. So please let us know in the comments or reach out to us directly on social how you guys are liking these episodes that are sometimes an hour, hour and 10, and then it's like a crisp 50, and then it's an hour and 30 minutes. We try to keep it at an hour, but sometimes we go over if we, get a little long in the tooth. So this is going to be another one of those truncated episodes. So we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's not waste any further time.
Let's do it.
Tina, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about the podcast covering its very first film festival together.
Hey,
Woo!
exciting.
Huge.
This is an inauguration to be heard.
Yeah, we are covering virtually. Sadly, we don't get to escape our East Coast cold weather for Los Angeles, but we are covering Slamdance 2026, which is very exciting. I'm a big fan of Slamdance. I've covered them for my own site for a couple of years now because I think that they are really dedicated to independent filmmaking, and it's not about star power. It's not about how much money you have. It's about, they have a cap of what you can use to make your film. It's just about, is this a good movie? Is this a good movie? And is it accessible to people who are just starting out, who are scaling things back? So I really love watching Slamdance movies.
I was going to say, if you could explain it to the uninitiated, but you basically already did that, is that it's like a very independent, forward-thinking, low-budget style film festival that supports emerging artists and voices. So I think that that's super exciting. This is all new to me. I have heard about Slamdance because, when you start talking about Sundance, I've heard Slamdance get thrown around. And so I was just like, what's the difference between these two? So it's been helpful to understand that as a newcomer to this festival. And I'm excited to help you cover it this year to the extent that we do. We're going to be doing an episode wholly devoted to Slamdance like we did for Sundance. So stay tuned to that in the next week or so. But Tina, do you want to go through very quickly a couple of the features and things that we are looking forward to? I know I'm tracking a number that interests me, and I know you as well, so we can kind of go bounce back and forth and tag whenever one pops up that we're both interested in and go from there.
Yeah, just one last thing about Slamdance. If you're listening to this now and you're not in LA and you want to join in on the Slamdance fun, I believe it's only $50 for a virtual pass. So
Cool.
They are running that from February 24th through March 6th. And I think unlike other film festivals, larger film festivals, most of the films playing at Slamdance are also available online, which it, continues their theme of accessibility, not from just the filmmaker's point of view, but from also the film lover's point of view, which I really, really appreciate. Okay, now that we have all that business out of the way, it's time for me to bring it back to pickleball. So there's a documentary.
Let's see how this transition is.
There's a documentary, part of the documentary features program called Kings of Venice, which is about a bunch of die-hard paddle tennis fans from Venice Beach who are pissed that all of their courts are getting turned into pickleball courts, which is, if you play tennis, any kind of tennis, paddle or traditional tennis, you have also been a victim of the pickleballization of the United States of America. And so I'm very curious to watch the Kings of Venice, because even though I just said I was in a pickleball league, I kind of hate pickleball.
What's paddle tennis?
Paddle tennis, it's kind of like, racquetball or like squash, where you're in that room. So
sure,
paddle tennis is kind of like that, but they have it outdoors. So it's like a weird sort of box that you are also put in, and you can hit it off the walls. It's a variation of the squash and racquetball.
No, this would be lost on me. I wouldn't understand the inner turmoil between pickleball players and paddle tennis diehards.
Yeah,
so
it's rough.
I'm gonna have to.
Genuinely,
okay.
I love tennis. Tennis is my favorite sport. It's why it's like kind of like you were saying, of like getting hobbies and like seeing the sunshine. It's like the only thing that gets me out of a movie theater. But because of COVID and because of how easy pickleball was, like for people to just start playing, it has a way smaller learning curve than tennis does to just get out there and start playing. So pickleball became all the rage really, really fast. And so then a bunch of recreational, Parks and Rec kind of organizations were like, well, shoot, we have all this demand for pickleball. Let's just start taking away tennis courts so that we now have pickleball courts. But the problem with pickleball is that it's burning fast and bright, where like people did it a lot in COVID because it was a way to get out. You could be social distance, all that sort of thing. But then they're not necessarily sticking with it in the way that tennis people have stuck with it. And it's been like a long-term generational thing. So it is very sad that the amount of pickleball courts that have been taken, or the amount of tennis courts that have been taken over by pickleball courts. So pour one out.
Of the things I got to remember to do. I did it on one of our previous episodes that we put on YouTube, but I need to start maintaining it more, is adding like chapters so people can like, go to this time code so that you can get to this part or whatever, because that chunk of minutes is going to be called sort of like a history or an update on the state of pickleball in America. That's what I'm going to sort of call that chapter.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, what are you excited for? What's your first pick?
First pick, I think that we have this in common, is a film called Tony Odyssey.
Yes, we do.
Tony Odyssey. It is about Tony and his best friend Ivy. They rob a bar where he works and steal a new drug that takes them into a surrealist Brazilian odyssey to meet God. Sounds great. Sounds awesome. It kind of gives me
fun.
A little bit. Sounds like a little Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, kind of, in some respects. I like a movie that's about two friends that are just on a weird journey from like, when it's like it's like, hey, we just got to get here. And everything along the way is different pitfalls and side characters that come in and detour their journey, and they get off on these side quests or whatever. Hallucinogenic drugs and things like that help with the sort of experience, not of like watching it, but I mean like for the through line of the narrative, to add those visuals and stuff, but it could. So this just, it sounds fun, and it sounds like it has a lot of creative outlets and ways that they can work the camera and editing styles and costumes and stuff like that. So I'm very curious how this one will go.
Yeah, and I think you could have on your hands a Fear and Loathing in Brazil. I think that's, it could be just that. I think adding that and adding the sort of style and the music of Brazil, I think that just adds something much more exhilarating. I feel like, to me, Vegas is very sad. So that is not, I didn't really feel that sort of swept up in Fear and Loathing, but I'm also excited for this one because I do love Odyssey movies, where an Odyssey, it could be as big as the one that's, Christopher Nolan's making, or like you said, just we're trying to make it to the bar down the road and we just cannot get there.
Yeah. This one was made in LA apparently, though.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, on the rundown here on their official website, it's hyphenated that it's made in LA. So
interesting.
We'll see.
We'll find out. Yeah.
What about you? What's the next one?
Okay, so this is another doc. I think actually
You're losing me.
Stop. Documentaries are so important, like pickleball. I believe this is another documentary. It's called Under the Rainbow: The Curious Crimes of the Ruby Slippers, which is about the ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz. That I don't, you know what? Before I continue talking about this, I should really see if this is a documentary or not.
Oh, yeah, it is a documentary.
Why do you sound so sad about that? So it's about the ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz being stolen from a small town museum and in Minnesota, and the FBI get involved, and it just seems like one of those stories that if it was fiction, you would watch and you would be like, well, this could have never happened in real life, and then you find out the truth, and it's like, oh, this actually did happen in real life, and it's far stranger than they've portrayed in the film. So
yeah,
I'm very curious. I love a true crime documentary where it's not murder, but it's like missing shoes.
Next one I have on my list is a film called BRB from director Kate Cobb.
Same.
This one, also in LA, is set in the era of dial-up and AIM messages. A lovesick teenage girl and her older sister embark on a road trip to meet her online boyfriend, spiraling into chaos as secrets are revealed.
Another Odyssey. I'm sensing a theme for you, Nick.
This was not intentional in terms of the connective tissue between me wanting both of these movies, let alone me picking both these movies back to back on the podcast here. But I like the story. I like it is an Odyssey, like you said, but I'm especially interested in it for the sort of time capsule era that it's trying to achieve here with dial-up and AIM messages and the sort of what it was like to interact with people sort of like at the emergence of these new technologies and these new means of communication, especially when it comes to the excitement of a burgeoning romance and things like that. So, and starring two sisters, a teenage girl and her older sister. I think that this is ripe for a fun romp with probably some good emotion. And yeah, I'm very curious. Again, it's kind of hard for me to sort of gauge and regale sort of my thoughts on these because, again, it is so independent. I can't like point to hey, I like this director's previous work or this star. Like I'm very interested. So it may sound like I'm kind of coming up empty with a lot of words here because I don't have much to go off of. So I'm just gauging from the log line my interest level, and that's kind of how I came up with the list of the movies that I'm going to check out. So BRB is another one on my list.
I think that's kind of what makes their Slamdance exciting is that the fact that you could watch BRB and then maybe like 4 years down the road, the woman who wrote and directed it or one of the sisters is in it pops up in an A24. And I think that is so, I think it's so fun to like begin to see the beginning of people's careers like this or like, you know, a plateau of people's careers like this. I think it's quite fun. I think it's actually kind of interesting because The Plan is another movie that I had flagged and that I plan to cover on my website. The Plan, I keep saying plan.
Yes, you.
It's about a group of people who come together because they are planning something and they need to act on whatever it is that they are planning. And it takes it's shot full oneer. I believe it's like 80 minutes ish.
It is.
Yes. And I interviewed the director. Remind me her name, Jessica, right?
Jessica Barr.
Jessica Barr. Yes. Thank you. And what was really interesting is I was talking to her about, you know, what it was like to be accepted into Slamdance. And she was like, I have been trying for 10 years to get into Slamdance. And she's had a short play at South by, and she's picked up a couple other, like what you might classify as like bigger, more prestigious film festivals. And she was like, but Slamdance is like the one that I've wanted because it means so much of what in terms of filmmaking it stands for. So I think that is a pretty cool thing about it is that you could be accepted to South by and you're still like, gosh, I'm waiting on that Slamdance acceptance. I mentioned The Plan. I stand by The Plan, having seen The Plan. I know that we're not supposed to have...
You saw it?
Yes. Yeah. I watched it.
Okay.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
I As you brought this up, I do remember that I think this was initially on my list, but the Vimeo screener link that they have me, I couldn't get into it. So I might have to offline with you to figure out a way to get into it, because I remember this one standing out because I do like a movie that attempts to do one unbroken shot. And so I'm very curious what that looks like for this.
Very impressive. And like what I think is most impressive about oneers is when it doesn't, that you're forgetting that you're watching the spectacle of a oneer. And I think that, you know, with Adolescence is an incredible piece of TV. I think it's stunning what they did with it. The plan does not do as much of like movement that they, like, you know, they're not getting into cars. They do at the very end, but it's just like the one thing. But for me, what took me out about Adolescence from time to time was that it felt like they were treading water until the next thing needed to happen, which can happen a lot in one takes like this. Or you feel like you enter into a room and then like 2 seconds later, the action picks up. That does not happen at all in the plan. So I think that the way that they choreographed it is quite impressive.
Damn. Yeah. All right. Well, I might have to make time for this one. Okay. I have 5 on my list total. I'll mention a couple quick here, rapid fire. I'm looking forward to Projectionist.
Opening night film. I believe.
Yeah. I do like those ones that are big and boisterous and carry with it a lot of, you know, pedigree to some extent. I believe this one is also produced by Quentin Tarantino, so that's probably like the biggest name ID you're gonna get at the festival, at least for this year.
Yeah.
This one is about a reclusive projectionist who is haunted by a wrongful conviction and the loss of his wife. He lives in solitude inside a fading art house theater until one fateful night when his past resurfaces, forcing him to confront the truth, rekindle love, and find peace in the glow of the final reel. Look, as movie lovers, this just sounds like absolute candy in terms of like all the things that it's tapping into. The, you know, a man wronged by the law, the loss of his wife.
Sounds like a Quentin Tarantino movie right up his alley. Really does.
Another one that I have here is 10 Will. This is a world premiere section as well from director Max DeFalco. When his van breaks down, a recently released convict tears through the streets of LA, colliding with everyone in his path in a desperate attempt to register on time as a sex offender.
Just say you want to cover all the Odyssey movies, and then like that's way faster, Nick.
And then we'll be done.
No, that one seems fun. It seems like another what could go wrong in one night with this simple task, or one day. You have one simple task, and of course everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So.
And if we're following a person that is attempting to register on time as a sex offender, what an interesting protagonist to put an audience with. So I'm very curious on the tightrope of walking that fine line of, do we root for this guy? Right. Is he deplorable? Like what's the vibe here? So I'm very curious on how they paint this character.
It does seem quite difficult to do. So I'm very curious to hear how they end up with that. And then my last one that I will do is a documentary.
Nice.
But it hits close to home. It's called The Bulldogs. It is about, remember that train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio from a couple years ago?
Yeah. Not too far from me.
Right. Not too far from both of us, kind of in between.
Yeah.
So it's about the residents of that, oh God, it's so hard for me to say with the speech impediment, of the rural town. Yeah.
Yep.
And that community and how they are kind of recovering after everybody almost forgot about them after the train derailment. Mm-hmm. So I want to see that for the local connection to us.
The last one I'll shout out, otherwise I think I nailed all of them on my list here, is not much to say about this one because, again, they don't give you much. This one is called A Story About You. It's world premiere section, directed by Joseph E. Austin II. And the logline is simply, a man is forced to come to terms with his past as he navigates his week with various love interests.
Huh.
So
it feels very much, well, I'm going to ask this and it's not going to mean anything to you. That movie with Adam Brody, where he's like in a hotel room and he's like talking to a bunch of girls.
See, I'm not nothing against
I was gonna say
Adam Brody, but I'm not
choose your words
nearly.
carefully.
I know who I'm talking to, so that's why I was saying like, hey, I'm not at that level,
Yeah.
so
I'll think of it.
I'm not going to be able to catch all the Adam Brody references that you throw at
My
me.
boy, love him so much. But it sounds a lot like that. I do love when people kind of go back through their old relationships and use that as a means of self-searching and figuring out what is next for them. So I'd also probably check out A Story About You.
And I think that's it. I think those are our just a small preview. I know you're probably covering much more. I know you for your separate projects as well, but looks like we're going to have a number of carryover on our episode where we cover these movies a bit more in depth and provide our thoughts and opinions on them. So be looking forward to that again. This is Slamdance. Like Tina said at the beginning, there still should be availability at the time of this recording and by the time you're hearing this to participate in the online function of it.
Or in person if you're in LA.
Or if you're in LA listening to this, bless your heart. You could be doing so many other things. But we're happy to have you here. So that covers Slamdance, our preview. Let's get in with the time remaining on one of the latest releases. We covered some films previously this week, and so now we have to hit probably one of the bigger ones from that weekend, from Valentine's Day weekend. This is Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights.
I should have brought my compact mirror that they gave me. I left it in the other room. My roommate didn't even take one. And I was like, when else am I going to get one?
What theater did you go to, by the way? What was it, an AMC?
AMC, yeah.
They didn't give me one?
I don't know what to tell you. They don't like you.
No, I guess not. I didn't see anyone with it, so it wasn't like a slight against me.
Against
thankfully.
You personally, they looked at you and said, that man's never used a mirror in his life.
He doesn't want this.
All right.
You know what's funny about this is that unlike most of the other movies that we've covered on this podcast so far, and in addition to a lot of movies from last year, Sinners being one of them in particular, I've seen this movie now twice.
I cannot believe you saw it twice.
Sinners I have only seen once, and a couple other movies I've only seen once from last year. Not out of, hey, Sinners is not as good as Wuthering Heights.
No, I think that's what
Not
happened.
at all. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
No, that's absolutely not what's happening. And I won't let this slander. This is a joint podcast. You can't slander me like this. So really what it was, we actually intended on recording this earlier, but scheduling happened and we weren't able to record it when we normally do. And so when I had originally went to see it this past weekend, I had also already made plans to see it with another friend. We typically like watching these, I don't want to say bad movies or whatever, but the last movie her and I saw together was The Housemaid, and we laughed and cackled the whole time and had a great time. And so this was another one of those where when the trailers were coming out and the Charlie XCX music was going and all the yearning and all the come undone and the greatest love story, we're like, oh yeah, this looks like too much. We're so pumped for this. So that was the vibe and the energy that I had going into this. And if you don't know already, folks, this is an adaptation of the Emily Bronte novel. It is about a passionate, and this is ripped straight from IMDb, so we can parse this out as much as we want to. But per IMDb, the synopsis is as such: a passionate and tumultuous love story set against the backdrop of the Yorkshire moors, exploring the intense and destructive relationship between Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw.
Beautifully.
Tina, what did you think of Wuthering Heights?
So I didn't like it.
Okay.
Well, okay. I guess I hate when people just say that. So let me
right out the gate.
Let me rewind.
Back it up.
And be a functional critic about this. I really, really loved the cinematography. I thought that was stunning. I think there are a couple scenes or a couple shots that really blew me away. Like when the mist is on the moors and you see Heathcliff again for the first time. Spoiler, but
2.0?
Yeah. No, not 2.0. When he adult? I'm not calling. Are you calling adult Heathcliff 2.0?
I'm talking about when he goes away.
And then he comes back.
He comes back and he's standing there with his cane.
Yeah.
And the earring.
Yeah, his
yes,
Lily
that's
ring.
the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
Are you talking about that?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, that's when he's Heathcliff 2.0, when he's upgraded.
Yes, There were people in my theater who were gasping like they were watching Twilight, and I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
love this.
This is
This
great.
is so fun.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at this movie as like an actual adaptation of Wuthering Heights, I don't
Yeah.
it's nowhere near what Wuthering Heights is actually about, and I think it's actually kind of infuriating to take a book like Wuthering Heights, written at the time that it was written by a woman, talking about racism and classism and violence and abuse, and to just distill it into, what if these hot people could not get it together? And I think that that is such a disservice to what Emily Bronte wrote. So,
as somebody that has no affinity for the source material, I don't take a personal offense to that, but I can totally understand the critique from a lot of folks that you took the novel and distilled it into like a bastardization of it in some respects, and completely disregarded a lot of like the character intent and a lot of the social commentary at the time that the book was being written about. So totally understand that. I think you could have done so much in this movie exactly how she did it, and just removed the Wuthering Heights angle of it. Don't call her Catherine Earnshaw. Don't reference Wuthering Heights. It could still be a period drama.
Yes.
Like, you can remove all that trapping, and I think I would personally have the same amount of enjoyment that I did without all that stuff. And I just know that the value prop would increase with more audience members that are more prone to the original source material. It just feels like a bizarre decision on Emerald Fennell's part to do it this way. I'm all about a director taking an adaptation and saying, I want to put my spin on it. But at what point do you put your spin on it versus just like absolutely going against what the source material in its own way is about and what it's speaking to?
I think it's just fundamentally wrong to take Heathcliff, who is supposed to be some sort of person of color, black. It's really kept open-ended. Like, she doesn't say who it is or like what nationality or race he is, and then to make it a white guy. I think that is just nuts, especially when the entirety of the dynamics of their relationship is built on the fact that her father, and she has a whole brother. Where was he? Like,
dead.
No.
He was dead at the very beginning. They say he's dead.
Yeah, but like, he is supposed to be also horribly abusive to Heathcliff. He is supposed to be
not
alive.
In this one, though.
I know. But I think that
literally 5 minutes into the movie, she turns to her father after she meets young Heathcliff, played by Owen Cooper from Adolescence. And she says, I'll name him Heathcliff after my dead brother.
Yeah. I just think that it's such a head in the sand choice to do that about Heathcliff. I just don't see the point of it. And if you wanted to make a little BDSM period piece movie, go for it. I support that. I don't care. But the fact that she is saying, oh, I just did it how I pictured it as a 16-year-old. I have to give her credit, because it is exactly the sort of thing a 16-year-old would create. But that is not what I feel like we should be creating as 30, 40, however old she is. I think at that point you should have had a little more reading comprehension and looked at what Wuthering Heights is about. Like, it's more complex than taking like Pride and Prejudice, I feel like. And I think she kind of approached it as, what if I took Pride and Prejudice, this story that is about classism, but like, you could also kind of fudge it a little bit and make it not as much about classism. And I think that that's kind of how she approached Wuthering Heights. And I don't think Wuthering Heights is a fair book to do that to.
I think that she could have benefited from a co-writer, somebody to help rein her in and maybe keep this on track and call into question some of her decisions. Yeah. I think the fact that she just had carte blanche to this and did whatever she wanted, unfortunately, is a disservice compared to her previous like original efforts.
Are you a fan of Saltburn and Promising Young Woman?
I think I've seen Promising Young Woman more than I've seen Saltburn. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times. I've seen Saltburn like once.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. I liked it. probably just need to revisit it to really refresh my mind on how I felt about it. But that brings me to like a question when we talk about Heathcliff is like, I wonder, I mean, I'm pretty sure Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi were tapped for this film almost at its inception.
Mhm.
I don't know that for sure, but I would be curious to know where Emerald Fennell and her desire to adapt this and her start writing it and get financing and like put the movie together. At what point in the creation process of this did she make the conscious decision to be like, it's going to be a white guy and it's Jacob Elordi? Like, was it like, hey, I really liked working with you on Saltburn. I'm kind of been ruminating on this love story angle or whatever with Wuthering Heights. Do you want to join or whatever? And Margot Robbie is a producer
Right.
on, I believe, all of Emerald Fennell's
I think
films.
so, yeah.
So I would just be curious to know when she made that decision, or if it was just like already baked into the cake from the beginning, or did a studio say, hey, Jacob Elordi's really hot right now, let's get him in here because that's going to put butts in the seats. And it is ostensibly the lineup on the marquee is 100% helping ticket sales. And this is going to be a success for those reasons. But again, the trappings of Wuthering Heights and all the baggage that comes with it and what you need to do to adapt it appropriately, not saying you have to do everything, but to your point, the characterization of Heathcliff and him not being white, it's just interesting. I don't know why
fundamental to the story. Like that is the thing that is really hard for me to get over, because like you said, I think it's fun when people take swings. Pride and Prejudice and zombies is fun. I support that. Like I am all for that. But it would be not the same equivalent, but I'm trying to think of what would be similar. It's like if you made the Bennett family in Pride and Prejudice rich, it just fundamentally breaks the story. And I think that's the same issue of what's happening in Wuthering Heights. It's just a fundamental issue of breaking the foundation of the story. And I think that if she wanted to use Jacob Elordi again, there are plenty of roles for Jacob Elordi. The brother she killed off, you know? there are other things that he could have played. He could have played Kathy's new husband, whose name I'm forgetting. But I just think that Edgar. I was gonna guess Edgar, and I thought surely not. I just think that it's not saying you want to work with somebody again, if that is the reason, is, and like saying that, yeah, you think he could be a good Heathcliff, that doesn't mean that you should make him Heathcliff. So just make it your BDSM period piece. And like that's my,
and drop the Wuthering Heights connection, and it works.
And it's perfectly fine. It still would have got butts in seats, I feel like, because I don't think a lot of people really care. I mean, there are a lot of people who care for Wuthering Heights, but it doesn't, I don't think, hold the same weight as, I mean, I keep going back to Pride and Prejudice, but it really is such a perfect example of old novel that somebody still hasn't seen an adaptation of. I just don't think that it's pulling people in the same way that something like Pride and Prejudice would. So I think she had no need to do it, and I'm just would really love to hear her honestly answer why.
I would argue to the point about the fans of the original Emily Bronte novel, I would argue that the mass proportion of ticket sales and butts in seats and the box office reports is coming from people that want to see a steamy Margot Robbie versus Margot Robbie fighting Jacob Elordi. They do
fight a lot, honestly. I can't get it. It's too much. I can't do it.
But I think that the people that wanted to see a Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi love story movie, the vast majority of audiences are there for that versus I really like this classic literature
100%.
And I want to see it adapted. So not to diminish those people, of course, but I just think that proportionally the marketing and everything that they were doing behind this was very much emphasizing these two and Emerald Fennell's visual language as a director versus the reverence and all of the novel stuff. But I do want to rattle off some just takeaways that I had from two viewings and just like my overall just feelings about it in terms of the pros. Like you said, the cinematography is really, really good. I love the production design is exquisite. I like everything feels very tactile and practical. The sets,
skin wall, you want that in your home?
Is No, but it's interesting. I admire again, I have no issue with because people are also like, the dresses that she's wearing is not like period
Right.
I don't care about any of that, frankly. Like, that's all the stuff that I'm like really interested
Yeah.
in. Like, that's, again, to me, is Emerald Fennell's
Right.
style and taste
That's
on
the places
screen.
to be flexible. And I'm fine
Correct.
with that. Like the skin wall, objectively weird. I don't love it, but I
No,
like the
but
swings.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like some of my favorite parts in this movie are, I think there's at least 2 different points where it segues very briefly into what feels like a music video montage, where the Charlie XCX songs mixed with the score, because the score was done by another gentleman whose name is escaping me at the time of this recording. So I'm going to vamp really quickly as I scroll on IMDb and quickly try to find it. Oh my gosh, where the hell is he? I'm past prop hand. Where the hell is he?
I mean, I will say the inclusion.
Anthony Willis. Anthony Willis and Charlie XCX together. There are 2 moments where Wall of Sound and Chains of Love are used in a montage that feels like a music video, as we're watching the passage of time, as Catherine is living with Edgar now that they're married, and we see her slowly realize that this isn't the life that she wanted. And another one with the Walls of Sound with the rock sequence when Kathy's out there alone and Heathcliff surprises her or whatever, and they have this sort of like fight or whatever, and then it's like their first like real, the emotions and like the physical intimacy and tension reaches a crescendo for like the first time for these 2 as adults. And the Charlie XCX score, it's not the song exactly, but it's the like musical motif, the instrumental, and it swells in the background, and Jacob Elordi lifts her by her corset. Crazy. And they like kiss, and it's like that whole scene, I'm like, this is great. Like, this is like peak what I came here for. And then it's just all the other stuff that just kind of like a little bit takes me out, is a little disjointed with some of the characters and the plotting, but those moments though are strong as hell, and some of my favorite moments of the movie.
And I would argue too that like the inclusion of Charlie XCX, the sort of poppier sound of it all, does go to her vision of, she read it when she was 16. I think she said she didn't reread it. Going back and tuning into those emotions of a 16-year-old reading what they think is a book of star-crossed lovers. Like, this is far closer to Romeo and Juliet than it is to Wuthering Heights. And I think that
100%.
I think that the Charlie XCX score really captures that too. I think it adds to it. So I just don't think that, again, it's all just coming back to, I don't think that this is a Wuthering Heights adaptation.
No. It's funny you mention 2 things. One, that if Emerald Fennell read this when she was 16 and didn't read it since, that clearly shows.
I should look at that. Wait a minute.
Please look that up. Another part, you mentioned Romeo and Juliet, and one of my favorite moments in the movie is when Isabella, played by Alison Oliver, is regaling Edgar about Romeo and Juliet, and just his face where he's just like feigning interest, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's still talking.
Yes.
I both times I saw that, I absolutely loved it. It's funny, the actor that plays Edgar, Shazad Latif, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I'm looking on IMDb. He looked so much to me. You may not get this, and I don't really like this guy as a comedian. I haven't really listened to much of his stuff, but he reminded me a lot of Nate Bargatze.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you know that guy.
I do.
And the whole time I was just like, I wish Emerald Fennell would have just done crazy stunt casting and put him in it and just had it be the same, like absolute same performance, but it's that actor, that comedian. I think that would be just super funny, because that's all I could think about the whole time. And Homeboy doesn't do anything wrong. Usually in these movies, you're like, oh, the sort of rich guy that like owns this lavish mansion or whatever. He's like shrewd or whatever he is. Homie didn't do anything wrong the entire time. And justice for Edgar, because he doesn't deserve this.
I haven't figured out if she reread it, but I was giving her 2 extra years. She read it when she was 14, and she wanted to make the film she imagined at 14.
Okay.
So
whether or not she read it again between now and then remains to be seen.
Unclear.
Correct?
Yeah. And when asked about the casting of Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff, she said, quote, "You can only make the movie that you sort of imagined yourself when you read it." So she,
So is she saying she imagined a white guy?
yep, even though the book clearly states that he is not.
She said, not for me, though.
It's like, what's that Lisa Simpson meme? This sign can't stop me because I can't read. All right, any final parting thoughts on Wuthering Heights?
I liked it more than I didn't. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with having no reverence for the original source material. What I do think in terms of my biggest con to the movie, the thing that I push back against, is it doesn't feel like a romance that I can particularly root for, because both of them, in various different permeations throughout the film, some earlier on, and then some characters evolve and become masochistic and warped later, but in various different points in the film, both Kathy and Heathcliff, I find awful.
Terrible.
Just like not people that selfish,
Yes.
Manipulative, mean,
Just cruel. Yeah.
cruel. And so I couldn't find myself rooting for their relationship really at any given moment. I think the last time that I think the only time I really felt a swell of like, oh, I feel this relationship and I would care to see it continue in a proper manner, was again that scene when he picks her up by the corset and the Charlie XCX music is swelling in the fog, and that's like the real moment when he's like, no, I love you, Kathy, and he like puts her fingers in his mouth and all that jazz, and it's like, this is steamy. I feel the energy in this, and then everything beyond that just feels childish. And that's another thing. Aren't they supposed to be like pretty damn young in the book? Like,
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I think so.
Late teens, early 20s?
Yes.
Because the whole like, I'm sneaking into your bedroom and like hopping out of the window and meeting you in the garden, and we're just gonna have a little affair. It's just like, this feels like decision making that a child would do, like a young teenager that doesn't know right from wrong. Not Margot Robbie, who's like 35 or whatever, and like Jacob Elordi. Like, this just feels off. The decisions never made sense to me, and so that way because of that, I could never connect really with these two characters.
100%. And that's why the book, it's never about, you're never rooting for Heathcliff and Kathy. It's not what it's about at all. So
then to take that Emerald Fennell and be like, I'm going to attempt to make you root for these characters, I would at least rather you do a better job at that.
Yeah.
Like, again, adaptation, I'm fine if you take a spin on it and say, actually, in my interpretation of Wuthering Heights, it is an actual love story between these two characters. But don't make it so complicated. Because,
don't make
again,
it biz.
another thing, I think we were texting about this earlier, is like, one, I think you posted this on your letterbox, like, Jacob Elordi's character, Heathcliff, needs to learn to figure out how to get over his childhood crush.
100%.
Like, straight up.
100%.
We've all been in relationships where we're like, this is the one, I'm in love, and then your heart's broken and you're like, I don't know how I'll get on.
Yeah.
And then half a year to a year later, you've completely forgotten the person, and it's
the
fine.
way that
these
two, that Heathcliff and Kathy are portrayed in terms of a relationship, felt like the worst couple you knew in high school, who would fight all the time, who would scream, who would break up, but then also say, oh my God, but I've never loved anyone like you. And then they'd get back together and you're like, well, now we're stuck in hell again. And that's just who Heathcliff and Kathy are.
That comparison is cash money. You nailed it.
You.
That's like absolutely to a T. The other thing is, both Kathy and Heathcliff, all of this could be solved and sort of squashed from like a drama perspective and all the sort of back and forth if they just talked. Just
anything.
Not empty platitudes, but actually like, hey, let me actually just speak the truth. Let me just speak from the heart. I'm not going to bullshit around. This is what I want. This is how I'm feeling or whatever. Granted, I feel like Heathcliff in some respects does it better than Kathy does.
Yeah.
But even then, it's just like therapy. Sit down and talk.
They did not have that back then. But they also, I feel like if in rom-coms or in romantic films, the reason, you have to give a good reason as to why the people aren't communicating with each other. Because so many of romantic movies and drama movies are just a miscommunication that nobody realizes is a miscommunication. And you're not really giving me a good reason for the miscommunication that's happening here. So I mean, yeah, he overheard one thing when they were like young,
And then immediately left.
Like, you just didn't really. Nobody's really trying that hard.
No.
They just want to
No, he immediately leaves after hearing something. And to Kathy's defense, she's like, well, right after that, I said I loved you, but you didn't hear it because you heard this one thing and then immediately booked it.
Right.
So it's like, how am I supposed to believe that he heard this one thing and said, I'm out, and just hustled ass out,
Right.
got on his horse and booked it. And then within like 30 seconds of that, she's like, but I do love him. And so I'm torn.
Yeah. My last thing that I'll say on this, because I'll
Sure.
be stuck in a Wuthering Heights spiral for too long. I think it's another crazy choice to take the character of Nellie, who's the companion, I think is the term.
Played by Hong Chow.
Played by Hong Chow. And to turn her into the villain of the story, who is like manipulating Kathy and manipulating Heathcliff. Like, that scene happens in the book where he overhears her and also leaves. But in the movie, they make it seem like Nellie kind of slyly encourages him to come and listen to it, which then starts off like the whole chain of reactions. And that's just not what happens in the book at all. And they've turned Nellie into this sort of manipulative villain of the film. And I think it, again, in the context of her changing Heathcliff to a white guy, to have your two, I guess you can't really call Edgar a villain, but he is like part of the thing that's standing in the way between Heathcliff and Kathy. And to have like the woman who's kind of manipulating and also hurting Kathy as like the people of color in your movie is bonkers.
Yeah, it's
not good.
Questionable. It's something that should be observed and flagged for sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to immediately put a red flag on the field just yet, but I totally hear that. It's weird because the character of Nellie, you kind of to the painting of her as a villain, you have to kind of buy into this idea that she's ostensibly jealous of the attention that Heathcliff is pulling away from Kathy,
right.
Or at least that was my interpretation of it, is that she's her companion. So basically like a hired best friend, even though I don't think she gets paid.
No, she doesn't.
So, and then when Heathcliff comes in, home, food, clothes on her back. Great. We love free rent.
In that time, she's basically a millionaire.
And so Heathcliff comes in and presents this obstacle for her, and she loses that attention from Kathy, and that basically carries her throughout the whole film. And so they have that moment where she sees Heathcliff walking by. I don't know if I was reading that necessarily as she was urging him to come over and be like, hey, take a listen to what's going on here. Because to Kathy's point, she's like, you saw him coming and you didn't turn to me and warn me and tell me that he's coming.
Either
so
way,
it's less so, hey, come over
villainous.
Here. It's not good. Yeah. And then all the letters that are being sent there, and she like puts them in the fire. She's like, no. Kathy stays here. Kathy stays here, where I can live in this manner with her and Edgar or whatever, and selfishly enjoy the riches of this and keep my best friend, companion or whatever, and ride through life with her.
Right, but she needed to be like a more fleshed out character for this to just not come across. Also, bonkers to hire Hong Chow like that and give her maybe 12 lines in the whole film.
She's great.
She's so good, and like I think you could have gotten this character to make a little more sense, but the way that she is portrayed now is just kind of, it's just not good.
The only character that's really pure, again, is Edgar and Isabella.
Yeah, Isabella is... I want to see the movie that she thought she was acting in, because she just went insane, and I loved it. I want her and Amanda Seyfried to just be in a movie together and just be nuts together. I think that'd be so fun.
Well, those are our thoughts on Wuthering Heights, the latest from Emerald Fennell. What did you all think? Let us know. Incredible. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Reach out to us on all of our socials. All the links are in the description below. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Tina, any final words as the car alarm goes off behind me?
Go check out How to Make a Killing, because that's what I saw instead of seeing Wuthering Heights for a second time.
I will see that. I have 3 movies lined up this weekend to go see. That is one of them.
What are the other two?
So hopefully we can... Real quick, I'm seeing Psycho Killer. And I am seeing Redux on Friday
Nice.
that played at South by Southwest last year.
Yep.
Apparently got some good reviews,
Yeah.
so I'm excited for that. So
Very nice.
this sucks. This is going to be a pain in the ass to edit. So thank you all. We'll see you on the next
See
episode.
ya.